All right, guys, for the last time, maybe for a little while anyway, welcome back to the Daytona Beach Motor Mouths. I'm Ryan Pritt, and that svelte man across the screen there, already wearing a Rolex hat. He's ready for next year. That's
No
that's
kidding.
Ken Willis. How are you today, Ken?
I'm
How you
good,
doing,
thank you.
Ken?
We've got what do we got? About 2 months till the little over 2 months till Rolex testing the IMSA cars, followed by the next week's Rolex 24, which is I sort of pick spots as to where I admit this, but that is my favorite weekend of the year, is the Rolex weekend. It's just a great time.
You know, I experienced my first one last year, and that's the thing I tell everyone from back at home about is just how impressed I was with that whole thing. But that's a podcast for another day, probably sometime in January, and we'll get to that. But for now, just as I told you what happened last week, Ryan Blaney cruises to a his first NASCAR Cup Series championship. So, Ken, are you finally on the 12 bandwagon here, or are you still holding
Man,
out?
if I had a red flag, I might be tempted to throw it because I do think you said he was going to win,
I said he was going to
as in
be.
win the race.
Yeah, I
So,
may have actually. Did someone else win
yeah.
the race yesterday? I didn't see that.
Ross the boss. First time in a decade, you know? I mean, and if anybody's going to screw up that streak, of course it'd be the world's fastest watermelon farmer. I mean, my God. Yeah, I didn't see that coming. And if
No.
somebody, I really thought if somebody was going to win outside of those final four, I thought it would be Denny Hamlin, just as a nice little go to hell parting gift for the rest of the field. But he would love to have thrown a kink in it, but it was Ross. So who knew?
Yeah, Denny was unseasonably quiet yesterday. I didn't even know he was on the racetrack. But we have a poll up on our website. I hope if you're watching this, you go vote in it. Talking about, of course, and there was something fitting about this, Ken. We end the year with a Ross Chastain controversy as we've got Ryan Blaney flipping birds off on the TV podcast. He's cussing them out in post race. I got to tell you, I've been as critical of Ross as anyone, and I'm a big Blaney guy, but I don't know. I didn't see much wrong with anything Ross was doing yesterday. How'd you feel about the race in between those two?
I was fine with it too. I mean, if you take out the huge X factor, which is Blaney's running for a championship, I mean that's a big thing to take out of the equation.
Yeah.
But if this is just another race that everybody else is just trying to win the race, as Ross Chastain was, yeah, he's going to hold his ground and try to keep the lead. And yeah, so I didn't see anything wrong with it either. At the same time, Blaney's probably thinking, hey, you guys normally get out of the way for us for the final race, but he finally, I guess he calmed down enough to hold it together and keep Kyle Larson comfortably behind him there in the closing laps.
Yeah, that's two in a row for Team Penske, by the way. And really, if you look at the season as a whole for Blaney, it's kind of eerily similar to what Logano did last year. You have the win in the regular season and kind of a lull through the summer months. I think there was 15 straight races where Ryan Blaney did not finish higher than ninth.
Oof.
And then the playoffs.
I knew he had a run like that. When you
Yeah.
say it out loud, it sounds worse.
Yeah, and then the playoffs get here and they figure out some speed, and then all of a sudden the last four races of the year, they're the car to beat. What has Penske figured out over there? And I mean, this championship format, you wrote a little bit about it. I think will come out tomorrow. Are we crowning a rightful champion here, in your opinion, or what do you think?
Did we crown a rightful champion in the World Series? Did we crown one in the Stanley Cup playoffs? And I mentioned those two sports because those are baseball and hockey are two sports where you can be pretty good during the regular season and get hot in the playoffs. Baseball, you're right, a hot pitching staff. In hockey, man, you get a goalie standing on his head, as they say in hockey. You get a goalie who's playing above his head in the playoffs, you can go a long way. I mean, those things happen, and you know, you play by what the rules that you are given. And that being said, yeah, Ryan Blaney's a rightful champion. The purest way to crown a racing champion is to keep a years long points tally, and whoever has the most points at the end is the champion. Unfortunately, oftentimes you would get a couple or 3 weeks from the end of the season and it was all but decided. And so you got the last few races are pretty melodramatic after that. And, you're selling a product and you're trying to create drama and theatrics and whatnot. So they've done their best to do that. it's not going to change. If it changes, it'll even change to further guarantee that we're going to have a close race at the end for the championship. I
Yeah.
mean, think about it. I mean, he was what, a second and a half ahead of Larson yesterday at the end. I mean, you would have
Yeah.
thought, yeah, you would have thought, he covered the spread and won by 22. It was just, yeah, that's something to think about. I mean, we're sad because it wasn't side by side bump, trading paint coming off the last turn. And what a last turn that is! If all them aprons were as wide as the one coming off turn 4 at Phoenix, it'd be a hell of a season. I don't know how many people would last, but that's quite a thing.
Hey, for the record, by the way, I saw a certain Twitter account keeps track of the old point system.
Yeah,
We would have had a change in the points lead yesterday as well. In the
yeah.
old system, as William Byron would have snatched the lead from Denny Hamlin and won the Cup. Ryan Blaney, by the way, would have finished 7th under the old rules. So,
Yeah.
um, just for those keeping track, not that they matter.
Yeah. And they don't,
Elsewhere,
because they don't race to that system. The teams don't plan their strategies and their testing and this and that. They don't race to that system anymore. They race to this system. And yeah, I mean, with Denny Hamlin and William Byron, would they have finished 1-2 under the old way if that was the rule? I don't know. Probably
yeah,
not. I mean,
yeah.
they would have been close to it. Hell, they might have finished farther ahead than they did in this, the old point system. They might have been even farther ahead. I don't know, but it's a system you got and you play to it.
I tell you what, after both of us were up to what, about 4 o'clock in the morning Friday night watching that truck debacle.
Is it over yet?
Yeah. I think they had to get him off there so they get the other two in. I don't know if you saw the Xfinity race. It was pretty clean. And congrats to Cole Custer. I thought that was a huge win for him, getting kind of demoted back to the Xfinity series and then
Yeah.
winning the title. That was nice. And then Sunday or yesterday, obviously, other than Blaney beating the rear bumper off of Ross, it was pretty clean, and especially between the championship four. So pretty glad to see that. And what did
So
you think?
with that being said, this is a perfect time for you to start lobbying for Homestead to return as the final race.
Oh,
Maybe you get a little
I'm
more
not.
action.
I'm gonna need a whole 10-minute podcast for that. And really, I don't. I could just put links to the last 5 Homestead races and the last 5 Phoenix races up and let you guys decide.
Yeah.
Anyway, one thing else that we need to touch on before we get off of here, obviously, Kevin Harvick calls it a career yesterday. And I'll tell you, early in the race, it looked like if anyone was going to do that whole non-championship 4 winner thing, Harvick had the lead early. And what a story that would have been. But, just you've been here around here for his entire career. So your kind of final thoughts on the career of Kevin Harvick and what it was like to see him say goodbye yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, it's been it's a Hall of Fame career. Obviously, I think he'll be good in the TV booth. I think he'll
Yeah.
do well up there. He's always been. When I think of him, I think he is the one driver in that garage I would least like to fight. He's always he's an
Yeah.
old high school wrestler, so you got to give them a wide berth. Yeah, it was just such a unique way that his Cup career started. I mean, they were going to ease him into a part-time Cup ride there in 01. And then when Earnhardt was killed at Daytona, man, it was just, you talk about being thrown into the fire. And what a really tough spot for him to be thrown into. And he obviously handled it well. Won in fairly short order after that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's obviously a great career, and it just kind of fizzled this year. But he had a few good moments. Would have been nice for him to win a race, but you can't have it all. He's got a lot of Busch Light though stored up. It's not a bad sponsor to him.
Yeah. So, to end this, we don't have our typical, hey, who's going to win the race next week segment, but hey, who's going to win the championship next year, Ken?
William Byron. I'm sticking with it. It's going to happen.
Ken's going William Byron. I'm going to go Kyle Larson. He's still the best driver on planet Earth, and when in doubt, right? Just kind of crazy to see those injured cars on Sunday just not quite have the speed. It's something you're not really used to seeing.
I know. I agree.
So, but congrats to Ryan Blaney, who is a deserving champion under this rule set.
And Roger Penske. Don't forget,
Yes.
It's good to see something good finally happen to him.
Well, yeah,
he's been beating and banging his whole career. It's good to see him finally win one.
It's good to see him get off the schneid finally, after a career of near misses. So congrats to Roger Penske.
Is bigger than our houses, I think.
which wouldn't take much in my situation. So with that, we will check in from time to time. I won't say this will be the last Motor Mouths of the year, but it won't be weekly. It'll be intermittently, and definitely keep an eye out. We got some exciting stuff coming here in the next few weeks and months. So with that,
Have your people talk to my people, and
Yeah.
I'll see if I'm available.
I'll have to find my people first, but that's Ken Willis. I'm Ryan Pritt, and until we see you again, we will thank you for tuning in, and see you soon.
All right.